My name is Serena Carter, and I'm 34 years old. For 15 years, my family sent out hundreds of Christmas cards every December, but I was never in a single one. Not once. When I finally asked my father why, he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Because you don't photograph well with us, Serena." Then, this past November, my mother called with an invitation I never expected. They wanted me in the Christmas photo. After a decade and a half of erasure, suddenly, I was welcome. I arrived at the studio 30 minutes early. What I overheard through that door made me turn around and walk out without a word. And what I mailed to my grandmother 3 days later, it made my sister call me screaming at 2 in the morning. Before I tell you what happened, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story resonates with you, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. To understand why I did what I did, I need to take you back 15 years, to the first Christmas I was erased from my family's picture. I was 19 that first year, a freshman home from college for Christmas break, still naive enough to believe my family was normal. Mom announced over breakfast that we'd be doing professional photos at Harrison's studio downtown. "The whole family," she said, spreading jam on her toast. "Wear something nice." I spent 2 hours picking out a forest green sweater dress, did my makeup carefully, even curled my hair, which I almost never bothered with back then. When we arrived at the studio, a man with a camera around his neck looked up from his equipment, his brow furrowed slightly. "I thought it was just 3 today." Mom smiled that polished smile she reserves for strangers. "Serena's just here to watch, right, honey?" I stood frozen in the doorway. "I thought we were all getting photographed?" Dad grabbed my elbow and steered me into the hallway. His grip was firm, not painful but deliberate. "You don't photograph well with us, Serena." His voice was low, matter-of-fact. "Something about how you look under studio lights. The cards need to be perfect." "But Dad, I don't understand." "You don't need to understand." He released my arm. "You just need to wait outside." I sat in the lobby for 45 minutes. Through the glass partition, I watched the photographer position my parents and Megan. I watched them laugh at something he said. I watched Megan toss her blonde hair and strike poses like she'd been doing this her whole life. On my way to the bathroom, I passed a mirror. The studio lights caught my face. I looked fine. More than fine, actually. The green of my dress brought out my eyes. There was no lighting problem. There never had been. 3 years later, I graduated magna cum laude with a degree in accounting. I'd worked 2 jobs to pay for textbooks my parents said they couldn't afford. I'd pulled all-nighters in the library while Megan posted beach vacation photos from Cancun, a graduation gift from Mom and Dad for finishing her freshman year. The ceremony was held on a bright May afternoon. I walked across that stage with my head high, diploma in hand, 3 years of exhaustion and triumph compressed into a single moment. I found my family in the crowd afterward. Dad had his phone out. Mom was adjusting Megan's sundress. "Let's get some pictures," Mom chirped. "Megan, stand over there by the fountain." Megan, who was 19, who had just finished her first year of college, who wasn't even graduating. I watched them take 47 photos of my sister. I counted. "Mom?" I held up my diploma. "Could someone maybe—" "Oh, we'll get yours later, Serena. The light is perfect right now for Megan." They never got mine. I asked a stranger to take one photo of me. She was kind about it. That evening, I came home to find a new 8x10 frame on the living room wall. Megan in her sundress, grinning, the fountain sparkling behind her. My diploma sat on the kitchen counter where I'd left it. That December, I saw the Christmas card proof on Mom's desk. "The Carters, Merry Christmas." Megan stood between my parents, radiant in red. There was no empty space where I should have been. They'd positioned themselves perfectly, 3 people who formed a complete unit. But someone in my family had been sending me something every year, something I wouldn't discover for another 12 years. By 28, I'd built a life that didn't depend on my family's approval. Senior accountant at Morrison and Wells. A small apartment with exposed brick that I decorated myself. A savings account that grew a little larger every month. I met Marcus at a gallery opening. He was there photographing the event. I was there because a colleague had an extra ticket. He had kind eyes and paint-stained fingers, and when he smiled, it reached all the way up. 3 months into dating, he asked to see photos of my family. I went quiet. Everyone has family photos, Serena. He said it gently, not pushing. In my family, I said slowly, I'm the one who doesn't get to be in them. He didn't ask me to explain. He just reached across the table and held my hand. That night, lying in bed, I realized something I'd been avoiding for years. By accepting my invisibility, I'd made it permanent. Every Christmas card that went out without me, every family photo where I didn't exist, I was letting them write me out of the story. If I stayed silent forever, I would die as the daughter who never was. Marcus told me something a few weeks later while we were walking through the park. I photograph wealthy families sometimes, corporate clients, old money types. He kicked at a pile of leaves. You know what I've noticed? What? The ones who care most about looking perfect? They're always hiding something ugly. I thought about the immaculate Christmas cards, the coordinated outfits, the carefully arranged smiles that never included me. What were my parents so desperate to project? And more importantly, who were they projecting it for? My grandmother Eleanor, my mother's mother, had always been a mystery kept at arm's length. She lived alone in a brownstone 3 hours upstate, surrounded by books and old photographs. Grandfather had left her comfortable when he passed, very comfortable, from what little I'd overheard. Growing up, I rarely saw her. Mom always had an excuse. Grandma's tired. Grandma's not feeling well. Don't bother Grandma. But every year on my birthday, a card arrived with her spidery handwriting. Every Christmas, a small gift wrapped in brown paper. I'd call to thank her, and we'd talk for hours about books and birds and the garden she kept. Then, when I was around 20, the calls started going to voicemail. My letters went unanswered. Mom told me Grandma was overwhelmed and needed space. I stopped reaching out. It felt like one more rejection. Aunt Ruth changed everything. She was Mom's younger sister, quieter, kinder, perpetually overshadowed. We bumped into each other at a farmer's market when I was 29. Your grandmother asks about you constantly, she said, examining a tomato like it held the secrets of the universe. I nearly dropped my coffee. She does? Diane tells her you're too busy, that you don't want to visit. Ruth's jaw tightened. But that's not true, is it? I thought Grandma didn't want to hear from me. Ruth set down the tomato. Your mother intercepts things, Serena. Letters, calls. She's been doing it for years. My stomach turned to ice. Grandma thinks you abandoned her, Ruth continued softly. And she's been heartbroken about it. She used to say you reminded her of herself, treated like an outsider in her own home. Something had been stolen from me. I just didn't know how much yet. November of this year. My phone rang on a Tuesday evening. Mom. I almost didn't answer. Serena. Her voice was strange, softer than usual. We're doing Christmas photos next Sunday. I waited for the punchline. We want you there this year. The words didn't compute. 15 years of exclusion and now this? After all this time? I kept my voice neutral, accountant voice. Numbers and facts, no emotion. Grandma Eleanor, Mom paused. She's not well. She wants to see the whole family together. Grandma wants this? Or you want this? Silence stretched between us. Both. Mom cleared her throat. So, you'll come? I need to think about it. Don't think too long. It's Sunday at 2. Harrison Studio. A beat. Oh, and wear red. That's the theme this year. She hung up before I could respond. I sat on my couch for a long time, staring at the phone. 15 years of you don't photograph well. 15 years of being erased from every holiday, every milestone, every representation of our family. And now, suddenly, I was worthy of inclusion. Because Grandma wanted it. I called Marcus. "What do you think?" I asked after explaining. "I think something's wrong." His voice was careful. "People don't change that fast without a reason." "I should say no." "Or," he said slowly, "you could say yes and find out what they're really after." I thought about Aunt Ruth's words, about Grandma thinking I'd abandoned her, about 15 years of letters and calls that never reached their destinations. "I'll go," I decided, "but I'm going on my terms." Meaning? Meaning I'll get there early, and I'll listen before they know I'm there. I called Aunt Ruth the next morning. "I need to know what's really going on." No preamble, no small talk. Ruth sighed heavily. "I was wondering when you'd call. Mom invited me to the Christmas photos, first time in 15 years. "I know." A pause. "Eleanor's been in hospice care for 2 months. She's reviewing her affairs." Hospice. The word hit like a physical blow. "Her will," Ruth continued. "She's been asking questions." "What kind of questions?" "Why you're never in any family photos, why you never visit, why you never respond to her letters." I gripped the phone tighter. What did Mom tell her? That you're estranged, that you chose to distance yourself, that you don't want to be part of the family. Fury rose in my chest, hot and bitter. "That's a lie." "I know, sweetheart, and I think Eleanor's starting to suspect it too." Ruth explained the rest. Grandma's estate was substantial, around $4 million. She'd originally planned to split it between her daughters and grandchildren, but recently she'd been asking pointed questions, demanding proof that the family was united. "Your mother told Eleanor that you'd be in this year's Christmas photo," Ruth said. "She promised. It's the only reason Eleanor hasn't changed anything yet." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. They didn't want me in the photo because they missed me. They didn't want me because they finally valued me. They needed me as evidence, proof of a loving family that had never existed, a prop in their performance for a dying woman. "Ruth?" My voice was steady despite the earthquake inside me. "They're not going to get away with this." "What are you going to do?" "Tell Grandma the truth." That night, Marcus and I sat at my kitchen table. "You're really doing this?" He wasn't judging, just confirming. "I'm going to hear them say it themselves." I pulled a cardboard box from under my bed. "And then I'm going to show Grandma what they've been hiding." Marcus opened the box. His eyebrows rose. Inside were 15 years of Christmas cards. Every single one my family had sent out since I was 19. "Where did you get these?" "Neighbors, Dad's coworkers, Mom's book club friends, anyone on their mailing list who'd give me a copy." I spread them across the table. "I've been collecting them since the beginning. Year after year, the same pattern. Mom, Dad, Megan. Smiling, perfect, complete. No Serena. Not once." "Why did you keep them?" Marcus picked up a card from 2019. "I don't know, honestly. Part of me thought, maybe someday someone would need to see them, someone who mattered." I gathered the cards carefully. "I'm going to put these in an album, along with photos of me from each of those years, side by side, proof of what they did." Marcus nodded slowly. "And you'll send it to Eleanor?" "After Sunday, after I hear what they really think of me." He reached across the table. "I'll drive you. Wait in the parking lot, in case you need backup." "Thank you." "Serena." He caught my eyes. "Whatever happens, you're doing the right thing. She deserves to know." I squeezed his hand. Sunday came faster than I expected. I put on my red dress, the one Mom had specified, did my makeup, checked myself in the mirror. I looked fine. Better than fine. I always had. "I need to pause here and ask you something. If you were in my position, finally invited after 15 years of exclusion, would you have gone to that photo shoot? Or would you have refused entirely? Drop a comment below, go or stay away. I want to know what you would have done. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Because what I overheard at that studio? It changed everything. 2 days before the photo shoot, Aunt Ruth asked to meet me for coffee. She arrived carrying a large manila envelope stuffed thick with papers. I've been holding on to these for a long time. She slid the envelope across the table. I should have given them to you years ago. I opened it carefully. Letters, dozens of them, all addressed to me in my grandmother's elegant handwriting. My hands trembled as I unfolded the first one. December 2009. My dearest Serena, I haven't heard from you since your birthday. I hope you received the sweater I sent, the blue one that matches your eyes. Your mother says you've been busy with college. I understand, but please, when you have a moment, call your grandmother. I miss hearing your voice. All my love, Grandma Eleanor. I read another. And another. 15 years of letters I'd never received. Birthday cards, Christmas notes, invitations to visit, questions about my life, my job, my hopes, and threading through all of them, confusion, hurt. A grandmother who couldn't understand why her granddaughter had stopped responding. 2018. Serena, if I've done something to offend you, please tell me. I've written so many times. I don't understand your silence. Have I lost you? Tears blurred my vision. She thought I abandoned her. My voice cracked. Diane intercepted everything. Ruth's face was tight with old anger. Incoming and outgoing, for 15 years. Why? Control, image, making sure Eleanor only saw the family Diane wanted her to see. I clutched the letters to my chest. These weren't just papers. They were proof, evidence of a relationship that had been deliberately destroyed. Grandma needs to see these. Yes, Ruth nodded. She does. Saturday night, the eve of the photo shoot. Marcus and I worked until midnight assembling the album. Each page told a year of the story. On the left, that year's Carter family Christmas card, all three of them smiling, no space for a fourth. On the right, a photo of me from that same year, 19-year-old me in my dorm room holding a textbook, unaware I'd just been erased. 22-year-old me at my graduation, diploma in hand, alone. 25-year-old me at my first real job, standing in front of my cubicle, year after year. Their curated perfection beside my solitary reality. How long have you been planning this? Marcus asked, carefully aligning a photo. I didn't plan it. I smoothed down an edge. I just kept things, evidence I didn't know what for. Instinct. Maybe. I added the final card, last year's, featuring my family in matching green sweaters. Maybe I always knew someday I'd need proof that I existed. We included copies of Grandma's letters too, the ones she'd sent that I never received, physical evidence of 15 years of deception. At the front, I placed a letter I'd written myself. Grandma, for 15 years I thought you'd forgotten me. I thought you didn't want to hear from me anymore. I was wrong. What you're about to see is the truth that was hidden from both of us. Not to hurt anyone, but because you deserve to know what happened. Because I was never the one who walked away. I've always loved you. Your granddaughter, Serena Marcus, closed the album gently. This isn't revenge, he said. No. I traced my finger across the cover. This is just finally being seen. Tomorrow, I would hear the truth from their own mouths. Then Grandma would see everything. Sunday, 1:30 p.m., 30 minutes early. Marcus dropped me off a block from Harrison's studio. Text me if you need anything. I will. The studio was in an upscale strip mall, all exposed brick and trendy lighting. The front door was locked. They weren't officially open on Sundays, but I knew from childhood that there was a side entrance for clients. I slipped through it quietly. The lobby was empty. Soft Christmas music played from hidden speakers. Through a glass partition, I could see the main studio being set up. Red backdrop, artificial snow, carefully positioned props. Voices drifted from the client waiting room. I pressed myself against the wall beside the door, which stood slightly ajar. Mom's voice. Megan's. She's actually coming? Megan sounded incredulous. She confirmed yesterday. Mom's tone was clipped, businesslike. She'll be here at 2. I can't believe we have to do this. A dramatic sigh. 15 years of perfect cards, and now we have to include her. My heart hammered against my ribs. It's one photo shoot, Megan. Mom's voice dropped lower. I strained to hear. 1 hour of pretending we're a happy family, then things go back to normal. But why does Eleanor even care? She's barely conscious half the time. She's conscious enough to call her lawyer. Silence. Then Dad's voice, coming from somewhere deeper in the room. The will is $4 million, Megan. $4 million. We play nice for one afternoon, Eleanor signs off, and we're set. I stopped breathing. So Serena's just, what? Megan again. A prop? Mom laughed softly. She's always been a prop, sweetie. She just never knew it. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. But I'd heard enough. I should have walked away then, but I needed to hear everything. Run me through it again. Dad's voice was calm, calculating, the voice he used when discussing business deals. Eleanor's been questioning why Serena's never in our photos. Mom sounded rehearsed. I told her Serena's been busy with work, that she's a private person, that she doesn't like cameras. She bought that? For a while, but lately she's been pushing. She told the lawyer she won't finalize anything until she sees proof that we're all unified. Megan snorted. Unified, right. Hence the photo, Dad continued. We take a nice family picture with all 4 of us, send it to Eleanor. She sees her granddaughter looking happy with us, signs the papers. Everyone wins. And then? Megan asked. Then Serena goes back to wherever she goes. We don't see her until the next time we need her. Something cold settled in my chest. Not surprise. I'd suspected as much. But hearing it spoken aloud, so casually, so matter-of-factly, I had the printer mock up the cards already. Mom's heels clicked across the floor. See? There's a blank space where Serena will stand. 1 click, done, she disappears again. I peered through the crack in the door. Mom was holding up a proof card. 3 smiling Carters with an empty space on the left, like a puzzle with a missing piece they'd only borrow when necessary. She doesn't suspect anything? Dad asked. Serena? Mom laughed dismissively. She's been begging to be included for years. She's probably thrilled we finally asked. Megan giggled. Desperate! I stepped back from the door. They thought I was desperate. They thought I was pathetic. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I pushed open the door. 3 heads snapped toward me. For a moment, nobody moved. Mom's hand froze mid-gesture, still holding the mock-up card. Dad's face went blank. Megan's mouth fell open. Serena. Mom recovered first, smile sliding into place like a mask. You're early. We weren't expecting. I know. My voice came out steady, calm. I heard everything. The mask flickered. Honey, whatever you think you heard. Prop. I held up a finger. $4 million. Another finger. She disappears again. A third finger. Desperate. Megan went pale. Dad stepped forward. Now, Serena, let's not overreact. I'm not overreacting. I looked at him directly. I'm finally reacting appropriately. You're misunderstanding the situation. Mom's voice had an edge now. We wanted you here. We've always wanted you here. Really? I gestured at the mock-up card in her hand. Is that why you designed the card with a blank space? So you could insert and delete me as needed? Nobody answered. 15 years, I kept my voice level. 15 years of being erased. And the only reason you want me now is to trick a dying woman into thinking you're a real family. That's not, Megan started. I'm done. I turned toward the door. Don't contact me again. Serena, Mom's voice turned sharp. If you walk out that door, don't you ever come back. I paused at the threshold. Mom. I looked over my shoulder. I was never really allowed inside in the first place. I walked out into the December sunlight. Marcus was waiting by the curb. He took one look at my face and opened the passenger door without a word. Drive, I said. We have a package to send. We drove straight to Aunt Ruth's house. She was waiting on the porch as if she'd known I was coming. I take it the photo shoot didn't happen? She asked as I climbed out of the car. It happened, just not the way they planned. I retrieved the album from the back seat. The weight of it felt significant now. 15 years of evidence, bound in leather. I need to get this to Grandma. I held it out. But Mom will intercept anything I send directly. Ruth nodded slowly. I visit Eleanor every Tuesday and Thursday. I can bring it myself. You do that? Serena. Ruth's eyes were bright. I've watched my sister erase you for 15 years. I should have done something sooner. She took the album carefully. Let me make it right. Marcus helped me add the final touches, copies of Grandma's intercepted letters, photos showing our timeline. Everything organized, chronological, undeniable. Are you sure? Marcus asked quietly as Ruth prepared to leave. She deserves the truth. I watched Ruth's car pull away. They've been lying to her for 15 years. About me, about our family, about everything. What do you think she'll do? I didn't know. Part of me hoped she'd understand. Part of me was terrified she'd reject me too. Believe my mother's version over mine. But I was done hiding from the truth just because it might hurt. Whatever she decides, I said, at least she'll decide based on reality, not the fiction Mom created. That night I barely slept. Somewhere in a hospice facility 3 hours away, my grandmother was about to learn that the granddaughter she thought had abandoned her had been stolen from her instead, and nothing would ever be the same. 3 days passed, the longest 3 days of my life. Tuesday evening my phone rang. Aunt Ruth. She saw it. Ruth's voice was thick with emotion. She saw everything. I gripped the counter to steady myself. And? She cried, Serena, for over an hour. My heart dropped. Oh no, I shouldn't have. No, Ruth cut me off. Not sad tears, angry tears, furious tears. I exhaled slowly. She kept saying my baby. They kept my baby from me. Over and over. Ruth sniffled. She couldn't believe Diane would do this, her own daughter. Does she believe me? Honey, she has 15 years of letters she wrote to you in her own handwriting. Letters you never responded to because you never received them. There's no denying the evidence. Relief flooded through me, so intense it made my knees weak. She called Diane, Ruth continued, 20 minutes after I left. I don't know what was said, but Diane called me screaming afterward. Something about destroying the family. What's Grandma going to do? A pause. She called her lawyer this morning, Serena. She's making changes. Ruth, I didn't do this for money. She knows that. That's exactly why she's doing it. Ruth's voice softened. She said, Serena wasn't trying to get anything. She was just trying to be seen, and I failed to see her for 15 years. Tears slipped down my cheeks. She wants to see you, Ruth added. Privately, before she tells the rest of the family what she's decided. When? Thursday. Can you come? I looked at Marcus, who was watching me from across the room. He nodded. I'll be there. Good. Ruth paused. She's been waiting 15 years for you, Serena. Don't make her wait any longer. The hospice facility was quieter than I expected. Soft colors, gentle lighting, the smell of flowers and antiseptic. A nurse led me to room 14. I hesitated at the door. Inside, my grandmother sat in a wheelchair by the window. The album was open on her lap. Even from the doorway, I could see she'd been studying it. She looked up. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Her eyes, still sharp despite everything, moved over my face like she was memorizing it. Serena. Her voice was thin but warm. My beautiful girl. I crossed the room in 3 steps and knelt beside her wheelchair. She reached out with trembling hands and cupped my face. You didn't abandon me. Tears traced the lines of her cheeks. You were kept from me. I didn't know, Grandma. My own tears fell freely now. I thought you didn't want to hear from me. I know, sweetheart. I know now. She pulled me into an embrace. She smelled like lavender and old books, exactly as I remembered from childhood. We stayed like that for a long time. Finally, she released me and gestured to the album. I signed new papers this morning. My lawyer was here at 8. Grandma, you don't have to— Hush. She held up a thin hand. I'm not doing this because of money. I'm doing this because of truth. She pressed a small envelope into my palm. I've written letters to everyone. Diane, Harold, Megan, Ruth, explaining why I've changed things and what I know now. What happens when they read them? Grandma smiled, tired but resolute. Then they'll finally understand that you can't build a family on lies, and that I always knew which granddaughter truly loved me. Let me pause here again. Do you think I did the right thing, sending that album without warning? Or should I have confronted my parents directly first? Comment below, right or wrong, and tell me why. I genuinely want to know. And if you're still watching, hit that bell icon, because when my sister finally got through to me, her voice told me everything was about to explode. The call came at 2 a.m. I'd been asleep, finally peaceful for the first time in weeks, when my phone lit up. Megan's name flashed on the screen. I answered on the 3rd ring. What did you do? Her scream was so loud, I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Marcus stirred beside me, instantly alert. Hello to you too, Megan. Grandma sent letters, to all of us. Dad's pacing the living room like a crazy person. Mom is crying, actually crying, Serena. I sat up slowly, kept my voice calm. I told Grandma the truth. The truth? Megan's laugh was sharp and hysterical. You destroyed us. You showed her all those cards and letters and the evidence? You're supposed to be family. Am I? I asked quietly. Because families don't erase each other. Families don't intercept letters for 15 years. Families don't call each other props. Silence on the other end. Grandma cut Mom's share in half. Megan's voice cracked. And mine. She gave most of it to you and Aunt Ruth. I didn't ask for that. But you got it, didn't you? You got exactly what you wanted. What I wanted, I said slowly, was for Grandma to know I didn't abandon her. What I wanted was for her to see me, really see me, before she dies. The money was never the point. Easy to say when you're getting it. Megan. I was tired now, tired of explaining, tired of justifying. I'm not going to apologize for telling the truth. If the truth destroyed something, then it wasn't worth protecting. You'll regret this. No. I looked at Marcus, who was watching me steadily. I really won't. I hung up. Dad called the next morning. His voice was different. Not angry, cold, calculated. The voice he used when negotiations weren't going his way. You've made a serious mistake, Serena. Good morning, Dad. This isn't a joke. He exhaled sharply. Do you understand what you've done to this family? I showed Grandma the truth. If the truth damages the family, maybe the family was already broken. 15 years of stability, 15 years of maintaining relationships, and you threw it all away because you're bitter about some photographs? Something snapped inside me. Stability? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You call erasing your daughter from every family picture stability? Intercepting her grandmother's letters for 15 years? That's not stability, Dad. That's cruelty. You don't understand the pressures we faced. I understand perfectly. You needed the perfect image, and I didn't fit the frame. Silence stretched between us. Then his voice shifted, softer, almost conciliatory. Eleanor has left you a significant portion. If you were to speak to her, convince her to reconsider, we could work something out, split the difference. I let his words hang in the air. You're trying to negotiate with me, right now. I'm trying to be reasonable. No. My voice was steel. You're trying to buy my cooperation, just like you tried to use me as a prop to get her signature. Serena, I'm done, Dad. Don't call me again. If you hang up, that's it. We're finished. I thought about 15 years of empty spaces, of letters that never arrived, of a grandmother who died a little each day thinking I'd abandoned her. Dad, I said quietly, we were finished a long time ago. You just never noticed. I ended the call. 1 week later, Aunt Ruth called with updates. It's chaos over there. She didn't sound happy about it exactly, but she didn't sound sad either. Diane hasn't stopped crying. Harold's been calling Eleanor's lawyer trying to contest the changes. Can he? No. Eleanor was evaluated last month. Completely lucid. Her decisions stand. I poured myself a cup of coffee, trying to absorb the magnitude of what was happening. How much did she change? Diane and Megan went from getting about 40% each to around 15% combined. Harold gets nothing. He's not blood. The rest goes to you and me. Ruth paused. Eleanor said it's not about punishment. It's about acknowledging who actually loved her. I thought about the letters, the years of silence, the grandmother I'd lost and found again. What about the community? Do people know? Ruth sighed. Eleanor sent letters to several old friends too, explaining the situation, including copies of a few Christmas cards and her own letters that were returned unopened. Mom must be mortified. She is. Apparently, someone at church asked Harold if it was true that they'd hidden their own daughter from the family. He didn't have an answer. I felt something strange in my chest. Not satisfaction exactly, something more complicated. I didn't want to humiliate them, I said. I just wanted Grandma to know the truth. I know, Ruth's voice was gentle. But sometimes the truth has consequences. They built their image on a lie, Serena. When the lie collapsed, so did the image. How's Megan taking it? She tried to call Eleanor to apologize. Eleanor refused to speak to her. A beat. She said the only granddaughter she wanted to talk to was you. Christmas arrived 3 weeks later. Marcus and I spent Christmas Eve with Aunt Ruth, making dinner and watching old movies. It was simple, quiet, perfect. On Christmas morning, I found a card in my mailbox. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. Mrs. Patterson, my parents' neighbor for 20 years. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was this year's Carter family Christmas card. I studied it for a long time. There they were, Mom, Dad, Megan, arranged in front of a decorated tree. But something was different this year. Their smiles looked strained. Dad's jaw was tight. Mom's eyes seemed puffy, even through the professional editing. Megan stood slightly apart from the others, arms crossed. There was no cheerful caption this year. No happy holidays from the Carters, just a simple season's greetings, in impersonal script. And there was no empty space where I should have been. They'd positioned themselves tightly together, 3 people trying to look like a complete unit. But the composition was off, unbalanced, like something was missing that they couldn't quite hide. What is it? Marcus came up behind me, coffee in hand. I showed him the card. Huh. He tilted his head. They look miserable. Yeah. I set the card on the counter. They do. Does that make you happy? I considered the question honestly. No, I admitted. It makes me sad. But not for me anymore. For them. Marcus wrapped an arm around me. 15 years ago, they cut you out of their picture. Now they can't cut out the empty space you left behind. I leaned into him. They'd tried so hard to erase me. And now, even in their photos, my absence was louder than my presence ever could have been. On December 27th, we drove to the hospice facility. Grandma Eleanor was waiting in her room, wrapped in a soft blue cardigan despite the warmth. The album still sat on her nightstand. She hadn't let it out of her sight since Ruth delivered it. "My family," she said when we walked in. Ruth had arrived earlier. She stood by the window smiling as Marcus and I approached. "Let me get a picture." Ruth pulled out her phone. "A real family photo." Grandma reached for my hand. I knelt beside her wheelchair while Marcus stood behind us, his palm warm on my shoulder. Ruth snapped the photo. I heard the click and smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time in years. "This," Grandma said, looking at the phone screen, "this is what family looks like. Imperfect, real, full of people who actually love each other." She reached into the pocket of her cardigan and pressed something into my palm. A small envelope, my name written in her shaky script. "Open it," she urged. Inside was a photograph, old, slightly yellowed at the edges. A woman in a hospital bed, exhausted but radiant, cradling a newborn. Grandma, holding me. The day I was born, I turned it over. "Serena, the light of my life. The moment I held you, I knew you were special." Tears spilled down my cheeks. "You kept this?" "Always." She squeezed my hand with surprising strength. "They tried to make you invisible, sweetheart, but you were never invisible to me." We stayed until evening, talking about everything and nothing. Marcus made her laugh. Ruth told stories from her childhood. I held my grandmother's hand and memorized every line of her face. It would be our last Christmas together. But it was also our first real one. Grandma Eleanor passed away on March 3rd. Peacefully, Ruth said, in her sleep. The photograph of her holding newborn me was clutched in her hands. The funeral was held on a cold Tuesday. Gray skies, scattered rain, the kind of weather that matched grief. I sat in the front row with Ruth and Marcus. My parents and Megan sat on the opposite side of the aisle. We didn't speak. We didn't even make eye contact. The service was simple. Eleanor had specified no elaborate eulogies, just readings from her favorite poems and songs from her church choir. Afterward, at the reception, Megan approached me. "Serena." She looked smaller somehow, less polished than usual. "Can we talk?" I studied my sister, looking for the cruelty I'd heard at the studio, looking for the disdain. All I saw was fear. "What do you want to say, Megan?" "I'm sorry." The words came out rushed. "For everything. The photos. The things I said. I didn't realize. I knew, but I didn't think. You didn't think I was a real person?" I finished the sentence for her. "I was just in the way." Her silence confirmed it. "Megan," I kept my voice gentle, "I forgive you. I really do." Relief flooded her face. "But forgiving you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. It means I'm choosing peace for myself." Her face crumpled. "I need you to understand something," I continued. "I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this because I've spent 34 years trying to earn a place in a family that never wanted me. I'm done trying." I touched her arm briefly, a final gesture. "I hope you find what you're looking for, but you won't find it through me." A month after the funeral, the estate was settled. Grandma left me the brownstone upstate, the one filled with books and photographs and memories of a woman I barely knew but always loved. Ruth received the same. My parents and Megan split a modest sum, enough to live comfortably, but far less than they'd expected. But the money wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the box. It arrived at my apartment one April morning, a wooden chest Ruth had found while cleaning out the brownstone. Inside were decades of photographs, Eleanor's entire life, documented in fading color and crisp black and white. I spread them across my dining table, Marcus beside me, and we searched through history. That's when I found it. A family photo from 1965. Eleanor's family. Her parents, her siblings gathered for some holiday. And there, at the edge of the frame, slightly apart from everyone else, a young woman with dark hair and uncertain eyes. My grandmother, 16 years old, standing outside the family circle, just like me. I turned the photo over. Someone had written a note. Eleanor, the difficult one, always causing problems. My breath caught. She was like me, I showed Marcus. She was the one they pushed aside too. And suddenly I understood. My mother, raised by a woman who'd been dismissed and diminished, had learned only how to dismiss and diminish in return. The cycle had continued because nobody had broken it. Until now. I looked at the photograph of teenage Eleanor, isolated, uncertain, longing to belong. The cycle ends with me, I said quietly. Marcus squeezed my hand. When we have children someday, they'll know they're loved. They'll be in every photograph, every story. I won't let history repeat itself. It's been 8 months since that Christmas photo shoot I walked away from. I'm sitting now in Grandma's brownstone, my brownstone, watching autumn leaves fall outside the window. Marcus is in the kitchen making coffee. The walls are covered with photos now, our photos, friends, family we've chosen. And in a silver frame above the fireplace, that picture from the hospice. Ruth, Marcus, Grandma Eleanor, and me. A real family, an imperfect one, but ours. Sometimes I think about those Christmas cards. 15 years of smiling faces that didn't include mine. For so long I believed not being in those photos meant I didn't matter. I was wrong. I mattered. I always mattered. The only thing missing was people who could see it. My parents haven't contacted me since the funeral. Neither has Megan. The silence used to hurt. Now it feels like peace. Because here's what I've learned. You can't force people to love you. You can't perform your way into a family that's already decided you don't belong. But you absolutely can, build a new family. One based on truth instead of image. On presence instead of perfection. They erased me from their photos. But they couldn't erase me from my own story. If you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible, in your family, at work, anywhere in your life, I want you to know something. You are not the problem. Their inability to see you is not a reflection of your worth. And one day, you'll find people who see you clearly, who make space for you, who never ask you to disappear. That's my story. Now I want to hear yours. Have you ever felt erased by your own family? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. You're not alone. You never were. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story meant something to you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It tells me you want more stories like this. Check the description for similar stories you might love. I promise they'll keep you watching just as long. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And what would you have done in my place? See you in the next one.